that we want to like kill all Europeans, right? Like like we want to do to them what they did to us. And so that's what that thought what you just
Oh, okay, so we disintegrate them with some kind of.
but it just made me think of like that's not what we want. Like they just want to be free. They just want to live. But I didn't even think of that thought, Avery, until you just said that. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, to the question of like why she went, like why she even like turned herself in. Like, first of all, I don't think they could have held her. I think there's like no chance whatsoever. And you could tell because the dude, the main villain comes out, that guy with the glasses, and the cops come out, and he's like, it's better if she turns herself in. It's better if you cooperate. And she just like looks at him like, and then disintegrates their guns. And she's like, it's better if you cooperate. Like, there's no possible way they're going to be able to hold her. And I think that the reason why she turned herself in was because, like, exactly what she said. She knew they were going to keep going after her daughter and her granddaughter. So she's like, I'm going to, look, if y'all want them, then take the strongest one, and I'm going to show y'all what to do about this. But I don't think that they have any control over her. I don't think they could hold her if they wanted to. I don't even think they could hold the little girl. The little girl was sitting in the cell, staring at the door, like, I just want to disintegrate this door. but her grandma told her to wait. So she was like, all right. But, like, yeah, I think that all three of those women, the African women, were much stronger than any of the forces that were after them. And they were choosing to cooperate. Choosing to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Yes, we can. I was going to ask if you have other thoughts on
Okay, fine. Okay. Well, there were so many parallel plots going on at the same time that I noticed. And also the fact that I personally have experienced some of these talents. And so I know that they're there. However, in this society, we are discouraged from learning these things or developing these skills and talents. For example, I know about seeing auras and colors. I know that because I've experienced it, and so that parallel also the fact that Ruth at the very end is that she gained control of her powers, of her superpowers, and so this was analogous to raising the Kundalini that we have in us. So she released those powers because she was able to see those colors, like you can see. That's what Lila had, that ability, clairvoyant and kinetic energy, that she could move objects and she could create things and she could fix things. She had that ability to fix things. Another way that the symbology was just running throughout this movie, throughout the entire movie. So I was saying about about prana, and that's the life force, and that these were women who were able to create, and so we are so often discouraged from acknowledging that power, those abilities to create life. And this is another way that men folk have taken over the world for eons, is that they had that destructive physical power. And so this is why the world is in the state it's in right now. It's because men have been controlling everything, and their natural or misdirected energies have been towards destruction versus creation and healing.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily, it's not even necessarily just men, right? It's like the system of capitalism. It's the system of colonialism, like the structures it created. And I feel like that's what the beginning of the movie is hinting at when they say we've destroyed the world that hasn't reigned in so many years. It's like the consequences of like capitalism, the consequences of like treating the earth as like a resource to be exploited. And I definitely think that this focus on, well, one of the things that keeps getting repeated throughout the movie by all three women is just the idea that you can only like destroy things, you can't like repair them. And that's where like the metaphor for trauma comes in for me. Like I can't remember the exact phrase, but something like if you can only break things, you can't put them back together. and that's almost like the Gugu. I forgot her. I think her name was Lily in the movie. Like her whole story arc is basically about she goes through this horrible trauma. She's like struggling to handle her powers, and it has like a really devastating impact on her life. She conceives her daughter. She just says she doesn't even remember how it happened, which like suggests that it was like a really traumatic experience. And so she's like struggling with like the power she has for her entire life in this world. And she like there's like that moment where her daughter, she like breaks the pipe in her sleep, the water rises in her room, and her daughter drowns, like the kid dies, and then she brings her back.
Mm-hmm.
And so although throughout the whole movie all three women have been saying you can only break things, you can't put them back together, that moment is her putting it back together. That moment is showing like the power of creation, and like that to me is like the metaphor for trauma, because I'm a person, and I'm sure both of y'all are people, because we're all African women, like has been through like a lot of shit, has been through like a lot of trauma, has been through like a lot of pain, and there's definitely moments when you're in that where you're like, this is never going to be okay. Like I am not going to be okay, and like it's hard to ever see outside of the pain and like the bad experiences you've been through. And what I feel like this movie is saying is that we always have the power to heal from the things that we've been through. We always have the power to like overcome our pain, but it's like a matter of being able to see it, and it's a matter of like believing in yourself, and like also having like the support around you, like her daughter and her mother, to help you like move through it. But just like that's why it's so powerful to me, because like they keep saying if you break it, you can never put it back together, and then she does, and then she does. That's the power that makes you start crying. But like, what do y'all think about that?
I agree totally. And this is also borne out by the fact of our people, our African people, is with all the trauma that our people have gone through, they still survive when all intents were to destroy them, to kill them all. Yet we're still here. And they are jealous of that ability, of that strong superpower. And that's what I understand melanin to be. And this is why the understanding and why they try to destroy it. Because in the beginning, I didn't realize when I was looking at the background of this film, is that I didn't know why that Bill wanted to inject Ruth, and what that was all symbolic of what I thought was happening was Bill was going to inject her, drug her, to rape her, and so that's just what I was thinking at first. However, I learned that he was a scientist and the government, and so they were G-men, and so they wanted to gain control. But she had what?
I was just thinking about like both you and Afro Phoenix talked about like the power of creation. And so it was interesting that Ruth said, you know, and after you were born, the seizures stopped, and I was also sober and clean. So I thought you fixed me. And then throughout the movie, when we see Ruth talking, like Ruth heals herself, right? So we have within us to heal ourselves, and like the community that she had, like she was very, very motivated by her daughter. Like she can like envision her daughter said something. Her daughter said something about not to try to vision something you can't see, but like visualize something you've already seen. It's pretty powerful, right? And I just feel like her daughter was wise beyond her years, like just rich in wisdom, and just like a guiding light, like almost in the sense like a thread throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Met her, and it was interesting, like with her abilities and and like as the generations went on, like you things are passed down generation by generation, and the daughter knew she could create, you know, items. Like it was in her. No one taught her how to do that. She learned that ability on her own. So I just thought like, go ahead, Afro Phoenix.
I'm just going to inject soul memory.
Mm, yeah, you want to say more about that?
Well, it's just that inherent in the whole, I guess the cellular code that is being transmuted through time and space, and so as we go throughout these lives that we go through when a soul incarnates into a body uh, at the beginning of, I say, an infant's life, is that all that all that coding is coming through, and it's coming through how we might think of physically on a genetic level, but it's all a spiritual knowing, and that's how it comes through. It's that spiritual tie as we come through these different lives.
But it was also
Yeah.
suggested that there were multiple generations of these African women who had these powers. And they, like, they lived in hiding almost. They, like, worked to hide their strength from the rest of the world, which you can understand why. Like, I feel like the bad guy was like a metaphor for like Western science or a metaphor for like Western capitalism, where they're seeking to exploit these women are like a resource. They see them as an exploitable resource, trying to harness their power and use it for like some privatized profit based means. So these women have existed all through history, but they've known each other. Like mother passes down, like mother and daughter have the powers. Mother teaches the daughters how to like use the power safely. Like I think that's the origin of the you can't put things back together. You can only break them because it's like it's about trauma, but it's also about recognizing how strong they are and teaching them to be careful about those powers. And so I see throughout this movie like the thread of generations of these African women and girls, and who knows who else. It's probably not limited to just the women and girls, like teaching each other and holding each other and like helping like move each other through this world that like means them harm. So like there's definitely that what you're talking about, Afro Phoenix, reminds me of the idea of like post traumatic slave disorder, or the idea of like the trauma of colonization upon African people being passed down on the cellular level, which has been researched. Certainly, if that's
Exactly.
been passed down, then like the skills of survival have been passed down on that level. But then also there's like an oral history, like a familiar, like a mentorship. I don't know how to put it, but basically it's like women teaching each other down through the years how to survive this and how to like use their powers.
Yeah.
And another thing that I was thinking about too is, remember the story of Henrietta Lack? She's a woman that they stole her DNA to create, what is it, antibodies, I believe it was what it was. Yeah. Um, and the HL theory, or strand of DNA, because they took this DNA of genetic material from this African woman. And so that's the story about Henrietta Lack.
Yeah, when you were talking about oral stories and oral history, what was really interesting is Ruth said to Bo, like, Mom, how come you never told me about this? Like, and so um the seeking, the seeking is so important, like being able to like know ourselves, know like what is it? Lila, she was just like, well, what if our powers were meant to help? Like she just wanted to go. Like she didn't want to be in hiding and trapped. You know how society keeps us like trapped, and we're not able to that we are often, well, we're conditioned to dim our light, right? And she did not want to dim her light. She was like, I'm gonna fix this truck and I'm gonna go. Take me with you.
Hmm.
So they're gonna go to Rome, and Bo is gonna be free. We're all gonna be free. You know, what are they gonna do next? That's I was just thinking about. But like the power of story, the power of knowing our history, like her being able to know, like, Mom, I just thought it was, Grandma. There was more. There was more women who had these powers, and then her thinking that I might have been Simone wasn't real. Like her whole for a while she thought it was that she was real, and then her mom told her she wasn't real. So being able to know that you're connected to like other powerful women, and that you've had these powerful women all throughout your lineage, your heritage.
Mm.
So
Right.
about the importance of like our history.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also like mentorship and like holding our ancestors and learning from our ancestors. And then the other thing about this movie that was really powerful for me is that they had spent all this time hiding. Like Alfred Woodard's character was really about like even when her daughter came back, she's like, "You should never have come back here. You shouldn't have brought this danger here." Like she was all about like hiding their power from the world because she thought that was the way to protect them. And I feel like by the end, well, you know, Lily never felt that way. Lily was like, "What? How do you know this? We're not meant for something more? How do you know there's not a reason why we have these powers? Like two generations of African women are trying to tell her to hide, and she's like, why?" She knows how strong she is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like by the end of the movie, all three of them understand that they can't hide and that there's no reason to. And at this moment where capitalism has destroyed the world, like this is their time to show show a different way, like lead a different way. So it's just like, to me, that's like a really powerful metaphor for revolution, right? Because we are taught by this society, capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, that it's better to just like go along to get along. That it's better not to fight back. That if we fight back, we might die. It's too dangerous. It's not worth it. And so just like keep your head down, try to survive. That's how we're taught. We're taught that we should not fight back. And I feel like what this movie shows, if you think about it as like a metaphor for revolution, is that there's no point to hiding. You think that you can hide from the world, but the world's going to come to your doorstep. The world is going to put you in danger. The only way that you can survive, the only way that we can move forward, is if we decide to change things. If, instead of running from forces of oppression, we decide to use the power that we already have, the strength we already have to change things so that no one has to run anymore. Yeah. So
Right.
what did y'all think about that?
That's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Again, I concur totally, wholeheartedly, and yes, yes, yes.
I agree, and I think like that was always there, but Lily manifested it more. You know, Lily was just really manifesting exactly what you said, like the metaphor of like it's gonna come to your door. It's not if, it's when, right? It's always going to impact us, and so you have to fight back. You know, that's so critical. And so, thank you. That was just so beautiful. I'm gonna just sit for a minute.
And yeah, just like, and then once they fought back, just my favorite part of the movie, besides when she brings her daughter back to life, I just like lose it. Just lose it. Started crying so hard. But my second favorite part is when, yeah, the Alfred Woodard is face to face with the main villain, and he's like, "It's better if you cooperate," and she's just like, she's like, what? I love
That
it.
was Lorraine Toussaint. That was Lorraine Toussaint on Song Room.
Yes, like she's just like, who? It's better if who cooperates. Like she's like, who are you? Like, it's just yes, like it shows, like, but that to me, like, listen to me. If African people are all around the world united and organized, like built our collective power, there's no one that could stop us. There's no force on this planet that could stop our liberation if African people united and organized. And that's what that movie made me feel, that like we are up against an enemy that we outnumber. That we outnumber. We are not outnumbered. We are out organized, which means that if we come together, if we build our organizations, if we build our movements, and we decide we're going to be free by any means necessary, there's no one that's going to be able to stop us. We're going to have the Alfred Woodard energy. So yeah, I just really appreciate all the levels of messages in this movie. It makes me feel hype and very emotional. I see some comments though. So Zachariah is watching on YouTube, as well as Mac from Hood Communist. Hello, Zachariah. Hello, Mac. Mac says Africa is going to make it rain again. I agree. I feel like the liberation of Africa is going to save the planet from capitalism. Zachariah says 2 days before this anniversary of Breonna Taylor's murder, Kentucky lawmakers passed a bill making it illegal to accost police officers and expand the predatory protest behavior considered illegal, heightened sentences for offenses related to riots. He's saying he's mad and he's advertising his YouTube channel. That's fine. Yeah, what happened to Breonna Taylor is an example of why we can't hope to seek liberation within this system. There's no law that can be passed. There's no person that can be elected. There's no reform that can be applied to police that's going to stop the nature of this system. And so there's going to be more Breonna Taylors until African people unite and organize. But do y'all have any thoughts?
I agree.
This is the one thing I like. I guess maybe this is like a little blurb from the film. Is a tale of black girl magic, which was really powerful as well. So I appreciated that. And to lift to encourage and support each other and lift us all up as we rise in power and communication and connectedness. And this is what that connection throughout the forces of time and years. And so that was another ability that Bo had, and that was Lorraine Toussaint, who was the actor who was playing that part of Bo or Bonnie.
Yeah, I think about, what Zachariah shared and what you Sawu, it being, it's just
Your voice is fading.
it's gonna continue. Like, it's not gonna stop because they don't care about our humanity. And so I really appreciated this film, like the messaging. I appreciated watching it with my son more than anything, but the messaging of the strength of what you're saying, Afro Phoenix, of connectiveness, but just the strength that we have inside of us, the strength that we have together, to rise, is so important. And I think the more we deconstruct that and the more we organize, the possibilities are all there, I wonder, when Bo was talking about being able to break the sky, what that meant. I'm curious what that metaphor meant, because when her daughter shared what she could do, Bo's whole body persona changed, and I wonder what that means in the movie. What are you all's thoughts around the opening the sky or break the sky? No, I don't have the right terminology, but it to me, when I talked about healing earlier, it made Bo feel so connected. Just her body language toward her daughter was very different. After that, I don't know if that meant what it meant to you all, that sky metaphor.
I feel like it means they can reconstruct and they can deconstruct, but they can also reconstruct the entire planet. If she's saying that she can break apart the sky and her daughter's I can put that back together, I feel like that means the scope of their power within that universe is limitless. Limitless. Just and I think that's what they were trying to show when they said it hasn't rained for 6 years, and then she just looked at the sky and made it rain. It's showing that they're incredibly strong. It's showing that they can it seems like they can fix anything or destroy anything, which is why I don't think that she was actually turning herself in. I don't think those people could possibly hold her, because I think these women were stronger than anything we could possibly conceive of. I think that's what that meant.
Right on.
And I also feel to the point about Breonna Taylor, the comrades in the chat talking about, I want to talk about this bill that was passed, because there's a Breonna Taylor bill passed, and it's supposed to stop no-knock raids, but it says they have to knock and then wait 30 seconds or something, so they didn't really stop no-knock raids. But it's frustrating when this has been happening for hundreds of years, right? Where African people have been being murdered by this system, by vigilante Europeans, by police, by militaries, by the government through neglect. This has been happening continuously for our entire existence on this land for, a very long time in Africa because of the colonization of European powers in the United States. And we're still on this thing where they kill one of us in plain sight. There's no consequences. And we're appealing to their system to stop it. And I'm that's the system that's killing us. I don't give a fuck about bills. It's been a long time since I've cared about a bill being passed in any way, shape, or form related to the murder of African people by capitalism and by the U.S. state, because none of that shit works. It doesn't work. We rally around these political measures that are appealing to their system, the system that was built with our slavery, and we expect it to be different each time, and each time it's not different. And I'm just why do we keep doing this? Understanding, look at the power of these women in this movie. It's a fictional movie. It's a sci-fi movie. but it's a strong metaphor for the power that African people have as a collective, as a unified, organized collective. Rather than constantly going to the system and being like, can you elect this person? Can you pass this measure? Can we have this policy, like begging for crumbs? We need to understand that we can build something so much better than this, that we are stronger, united, and organized than the system oppressing us, that we outnumber our oppressors, so we don't actually have to ask them for anything. We don't have to like analyze the crumbs they put out and be like, this should be like this. Like, we don't have to like tinker around the edges of this like capitalist white supremacist system. We can tear it down. Like, I want us to start having that conversation instead of like, how do we make their system better? Why don't we talk about how we build something that we want, that will protect us, that will honor our lives? Like, I'm so sick of like the policy change approach to murder and like terrorism against us. Like, I'm so tired of it.
I would like to speak to that person who put that question out there on Sonya. If you are an African person, don't stand on the sidelines and wonder and ask these questions. Come into Pan-Africanism. Come into really do something rather than stand on the sidelines and question of why this is happening. Because I've come to learn with the period that I have been in AAPRP is that all of this is futile. You've got to come in and really affect change the way that it is showing in this film. You use your power, and we're so powerful united. And there has never been in any event with what I have learned is that in all of these situations, just from Haiti, using the example of Haiti, is that they were outnumbered, yet they defeated the British, the French, and the Portuguese because they came together united. The same thing when we saw the film Sarianyu, is that they were outnumbered, massively outnumbered, yet because they were united, they were able to drive the French out. And this has been the case throughout all of whatever has gone on, is when these imperialistic colonizers, they came in, but if they stayed fighting and divided among themselves, that's how they were able to take hold, and that's how they were able to colonize people. And this has happened all over the world because the Europeans have colonized the whole planet because they came in and sowed divisiveness and division. And that old saying, and I don't know where it's from, perhaps it's in the Bible, a house divided cannot stand. Or something to that effect. I don't know the exact wording.
Thank you, Afro Phoenix. Like exactly what you were saying. Look what happened with Haiti. Like outnumbered, outgunned, 3 different empires, and they won. And so I reflect on, like, I remember the Rodney King beating, right? Like I remember that clearly when it happened. And like what you said, Onyesawu, is policy after policy after policy after policy after policy pass. And it's worse, y'all. Indigenous and African people are the top ones, and Chicanos as well, violently killed by the police. Like in New Mexico, y'all, we are 3% of the population here, and yet we're 7 times more likely to be incarcerated in New Mexico. Like those are percentages like not California, like Alabama, like Louisiana. And so when are we going to wake up to see that we can't vote ourselves to liberation? We can't policy our way to liberation because nothing's going to change. And so I'm not sure why um like we don't do enough deconstructing that. Like what policy has stopped them from murdering us?
Right.
Like that I can't name one. I can't think of one,
Right.
at all.
Right.
I read yesterday that the family of George Floyd, they won a civil suit with the city of Minneapolis, and they got like $27 million. And that lawyer, Benjamin Crump, who was like also the lawyer for Trayvon Martin's family, I believe, also a lawyer, basically has taken a lot of cases for the family of Africans that have been murdered by police. And to my knowledge, he's never actually won one of those cases, but they got a $27 million settlement for George Floyd's murder. And he was on Facebook talking about like, this is gonna make Black Lives Matter. Like, this is it. They're gonna hesitate now. And I'm like, there's been lawsuits, like Rodney King got a settlement, Corinne Gaines' family got a settlement, and they took that shit back. Like this, like it's happened many, many times that they give like a lump sum payout for murdering an African person. And like, first of all, it's not gonna bring them back. It's not justice for them to just give up, like hand over a check. But second of all, this has happened before, and it's in no way, shape, or form a deterrent to violence against us. Like they continue it unchecked after paying out these lump sums. So it's just insulting, really. It's just insulting. But like we don't have to be within the parameters that they set up. We don't have to like if we limit ourselves to appealing to a system built on our backs, funded by slavery and genocide, all we're going to get is more slavery and genocide. If we say that we don't have to be limited by the rules set up by colonizers and capitalists, and instead we're going to fight for an African world, fight for a life-centered world, fight for a socialist world, then the whole board changes. Like the rules change. We don't have to be limited to what these people set up while killing us. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. And when you look, like, I feel like that's like a really powerful thing in the movie where these Europeans are like, come, you have no choice but to let us like experiment on you and come with us and do what we say because we have guns. And she's like, your guns mean nothing. Like, you're not going to hold me. You can't even hold a little girl. Like, we're stronger than you. I feel like we have to recognize that that is actually the relationship, but we have to build organization and we have to build power. And then we do not have to play within their rules anymore. Marion on YouTube says crumb chasing. Correct. That's what it is. Crumbs. Crumbs. But it's we said we're going to wrap this up at 4:30. It's 4:30 now, so I want to know if y'all had any last thoughts about the movie or about anything we've talked about today.
I was just saying, we got some crumbs here. We got $1 million in turkey. Crumbs to the African community. I don't know what that means, but like they got $20 million in the international district where our people are, where, Black and brown people are locking people up, manufacturing crime. And the city gave $1 million. Where do we do this? And it's like, it has to stop. And it's only going to stop if we organize to make it stop. So I deeply appreciate this movie. I want to watch it again. There was so much messaging in it. Me and my son just loved it. Like, just loved the incredible, and he's like, is there women with more powers out there? Whereas we're watching through it, because we're at home and we could talk about it while we're watching it. And so, I hope that he's able to even think about the power that he has within him to also like organize. And so I'm so glad that, it's International Women's, month, and that we're able to show the power of African women, the superpowers that we have.
Well, the one last thing that I was thinking about is it's so symbolic because all of this movie was filmed on Tiwa land because it was right here in Albuquerque and Estancia. That's where this movie took place.
Yeah, Monica told me that. I've seen this movie so many times and I did not know that until like yesterday. But yeah, it was filmed in New Mexico.
Right. And Albuquerque specifically. And Estancia. Well, I just think this is a very important film, and I would wish more people would be able to view this and understand it, because I had never heard of it. I'd never heard of it. As so much that I'm learning that I never knew. That I never knew.
Yeah, I agree. This movie, when it came out, it made like $70,000 in theaters. $70,000. It wasn't really widely seen at all because they didn't really advertise it. I saw it like years after it came out, but I definitely agree. Like more people should see it. I'm really grateful that we got to watch it together, and that the folks that were watching the stream got to see it, because I agree it's really important. It's really important. It's like a really strong message about trauma and healing and change and like the power that we have as African women and as African people. And it's just like so healing an experience, like a cathartic experience to watch for me. So thank y'all so much for watching this film and discussing it for the community. Thanks to the folks who are watching on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter for your comments. This has been the Pan-African Film Series. We do this on the second Saturday of each month, which means our next film series will be Saturday, April 10th, and we are going to be showing 2 films about another revolutionary African woman, a powerful African woman. She didn't have superpowers, but she was, and she is a hero. And that woman is Assata Shakur. We're going to be showing a film about how she escaped from political imprisonment in the United States, and we're going to be watching a film about her experience in Cuba. That is again happening Saturday, April 10th at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter channels. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next month. And just to wrap up the stream, I'm going to show y'all a flyer for an upcoming event. Have a good day.